If you've ever looked at the back of a bag of chips, you may have noticed the phone number that you can call. When calling this number, you'll be directed to a call center where you can complain or ask questions. This is typically found with larger food manufacturers, which have the budget to host an entire call center to handle these inquiries. With an AI phone system, we can essentially replace the need for this large operation with advanced AI agents that can handle these questions automatically and forward any urgent requests directly to the teams responsible for the product quicker than any typical team. So today I'm going to show you how to build an AI voice agent for Lay's chips to replace the customer service phone number that you see on the back of the food packaging. This AI will handle complaints, answer questions, and escalate urgent issues, all automated with AI. Here is a quick demonstration of the system I will build.
Hello, welcome to Lay's Chip Support. How can I assist you today?
Hey, I'd like to get a refund.
I'm here to help with your refund request. Could you please provide me with a detailed explanation of why you are requesting a refund?
Yes, so there's no chips at all in my bag of chips.
I'm sorry to hear about the issue with your bag of chips. Could you please provide me with the receipt code for your purchase? I'll need it to process your refund request.
1234.
Thank you for providing the receipt code, 1234. Next, could you please provide your first name?
This will use Google Sheets to store complaints, feedback, refunds, or replacement requests as really a central hub to manage all inquiries. This will also involve emailing the callers and following up their inquiries. The refunds and replacements will actually search an order database to verify their purchase and provide any details as to when to expect their refund or replacement. For any urgent product issues, the system will do a warm transfer. This warm transfer will have the AI detail exactly what the caller has inquired about to a live human agent before transferring them to solve more urgent issues. And lastly, this AI will have a general FAQ capability to answer any questions about the business or the product. You can also help direct them to call emergency services if their issue does require any medical attention. I've built AI voice agents for industries like HVAC, real estate, travel, automating thousands of calls. These systems have helped businesses save time, scale operations, and deliver better customer service. With an AI phone system, we can essentially replace the need for this large call center operation with advanced AI agents that can handle these questions automatically and forward any urgent requests directly to the teams responsible for that product quicker than any typical team. These agents become even more useful for smaller food manufacturers that don't have the budget to host an entire call center. Not all foods have these numbers to call, given the cost required to do so. Typically, they'll just use an email or some other contact information. These AI agents will help reduce the costs for these smaller companies as they are only charged when the calls are actually made. So to get started in building out our assistant for Lay's to completely handle all product inquiries coming through on that back of packaging number, I'm going to be using a platform called Retell AI. Retell is essentially the main hub where we're just going to be building the entire voice assistant. So we're going to provide the prompt, all of the instructions, and we're going to connect all of the automations with Gmail, Google Sheets, and all of these other platforms to Retell. I'll also be using Make.com as sort of a middleman between Retell and the platforms like Google Sheets or Gmail. And this is to speed up the process of creating these automations. The first thing that I'm going to do once I've created an assistant here on Retell is just paste in one of my templates that I like to use for all of our clients, and all of my builds is just a very basic template that I use to get started. So this right here is just the basic template that I've used previously on the channel, and I use this for all of my clients when getting started and just putting out that first phase of the prompt. And what I mean by the first phase of the prompt is that this prompt is never going to be the final finished product. When you start to test this system, you start to call it, you start to deploy it in the real world with real feedback, you're going to realize that it's not performing how you want it to, and you're going to make adjustments to it, and you're going to change it and modify the entire thing. So this is really just providing us a base template to start with. And then once we get some data from this template, we can then modify it and make it as best as possible. Once I've got my template pasted into the instructions, into the prompt that essentially shapes our entire assistant's personality and understanding from, we're pretty much just going to fill out each of the headings that I've noted here. So we've got the role, we've got the task, we've got specifics, we've got all of these different headings. And all I'm going to do is just go ahead and just fill out all of the requirements in each of these headings. So first up, for the role, we're just shaping its personality. We're just letting the AI know who it is, what it's doing, what's its purpose, what should it really achieve. And that's really all we need to add into this. So in this case, we're obviously building out an assistant for Lay's chips to handle complaints, feedback, inquiries, refunds, etc. So we just need to shape this into the role. So I might start off by saying you are Emily. So there we have a really basic role. I've just gone ahead and just wrote down the first thing that came to my mind in terms of laying out a really basic just understanding of who this assistant is, what their job is, and what their role is going to be going on further in the conversation. So I'm going to call them Emily. They're an AI assistant for Lay's Chips, and you're going to be handling inbound inquiries related to the products and services. And you're should expect to get product issues, complaints, feedbacks, and some more. So we'll go into more detail into specifically what they need to handle in the task. So the first thing that I'm going to do in the task here is just give it a good brief understanding, similar to what I did in the role, as to what it should be achieving in these calls. So what is its task? What should it reach as an end objective? And just throw that into the task. So I'm going to go ahead and say that your task, and then what I might do is I might just remove the specifics tab right here, which I typically use for sort of examples of responses in different assistant use cases. So if somebody wants to have a sales script, you might put specifics, an example of the script in there. In this case, it's going to be a little more freeform because these issues are probably going to be pretty random and different each time. So I might remove the specifics in this case and actually create a bunch of subheadings for each task that I think could be the most common inquiries that are going to come through. So under task, I'm actually going to add 2 hashtags. And so in this case, the hashtags are referring to Markdown formatting. So when we're building these prompts and these instructions, the AI models are actually reading Markdown formatting. And that's how it's actually structuring its hierarchy of information. And it's using different heading types. So the one hashtag is actually a heading number 1. So that's your big heading that you use to have your sort of top of information. And then you've got your 2 hashtags, which is more of a subheading, which is your sort of second section of information. So in this case, we want to use 2 hashtags for our sort of first task. And in this case, we might say products complaint. And then what I'll say is if someone inquires about a product complaint or has some feedback about our. So follow these instructions if someone inquires about a product complaint or has some feedback about our products. So the goal here and what I'm doing is really, I want the assistant to recognize that this is an area of the prompt that I want it to be looking at. If somebody comes through and has a complaint about the product, or they've got some feedback, either positive or negative, to come and have a look at this part of the prompt. The next part of the prompt, I'm going to do the refunds and replacements part. So these are going to be 2 separate automations for the complaints and the refunds. So essentially what I'm going to do later in the video is build out a couple of automations on Make that is going to, for the product complaint and feedback inquiries, send these inquiries off to a Google Sheet and store these inquiries in a Google Sheet so that a team of people can monitor this spreadsheet and have a look at all of the inquiries that are coming through. And that's going to help with obviously managing the active inquiries that are currently coming on through this assistant, but they're also going to be able to just track everything that's going on and then make follow-up calls if needed as well. This can also be used for obviously analyzing any data. So we can actually track transcripts, analytics, everything to do with these calls. We can track all of this in a spreadsheet. And so once all that data is in a spreadsheet, you can obviously just analyze that using more AI, and you can just pick out bits of data that you want to. And this can be super helpful for particular food manufacturing companies that want to have a look at what everybody is complaining about, if there are complaints, to actually chart this data and to just get a general consensus as to how the quality of their products are at the current time. So the next heading that I'm going to do is just the refunds and replacements. So refunds. So now I've got refund/replacement inquiries. Follow these instructions if someone inquires about a refund or replacement on their product. Once again, I'm going to come back to this once I set up the automation. I'm going to obviously add in the function calling aspect. If you have looked into function calls, that's how we can run automations in these assistants. So I'm going to add in a function call for both of these so we can actually send some data out to some spreadsheets, and we can actually search up some data as well. For the refunds and replacements, I'm actually going to build out another Google Sheet, which does sort of a storage of all of the orders for a particular company. And what it's going to do is search that Google Sheet. It's going to look for the particular order that somebody is referring to, make sure and confirm they have obviously ordered the product, and then move further in the stage of either processing a refund or providing a replacement, whatever they were requesting. And then lastly, for the tasks, we're going to have a total of 3 tasks. And the last one is going to be for any urgent product issues or complaints. So this is sort of a step up from the first product complaint inquiry. If somebody has a small complaint about the product, maybe it was the taste, maybe it was, who knows what type of complaint is coming through, that is going to be stored in the spreadsheet. And they're also going to be maybe sent an email about that and see if they can get a response. But for the most part, it's not going to be a super urgent issue. If it is a really urgent issue where it's a bigger issue and somebody does need to get in contact, we're going to use the AI to determine that level of urgency. And then we're going to essentially do a live warm transfer. And this live warm transfer just means it's going to take the current call. It's going to start to ring up a manager to a set number that we've put into the system. And it's actually going to detail to the person using AI what the call is about. So essentially, if I put my phone number as the transfer number, I'm going to receive a call. AI is going to be talking to me and telling me about the problem that the caller is experiencing. So I have some more information as to what this call is all about. And then obviously I'll be transferred the call, and then I'll be up to speed as to what they're calling about. And then I can solve that inquiry manually. So for the third one, I'm just going to say urgent product issue / complaints. So urgent product issues / complaints follows instructions if someone inquires about an urgent product issue / complaint and should speak with a live person. So obviously these sets of instructions that I've currently put in, I have no idea how effective they are in going to actually run when we need them to. And that is the entire process of prompt engineering. That's why it is an entire career in itself. We're obviously going to need to test the system quite a lot to get it to be where we want it to get it. But for the most part, this is going to be super good just for running our initial tests in phase 1. Now below this, I've got context. So context is really about giving the AI more information as to the business that it's working for. So it just has some more context about the products and services. So obviously with Lay's, it's a bit more of a popular company. The AI likely actually has some information about it, but typically if it's obviously a less known company, we'll put in that information for it. And in this case, we'll just tell it about the business, we'll tell it about some of the products and services. And that way it's just got some more context as to why somebody might be complaining about a certain thing. Obviously it needs to know that this is a food company where people are calling in about potential food problems. So we can actually have that context to provide more relevant responses and reasoning to solve their inquiries. So I've gone ahead and added in some information that I just got from ChatGPT. So I've just pasted in a bit of a summary about the company, whether or not this is useful or not for the actual assistant. It's essentially just providing sort of a backend for understanding who the company is and confirming that. So yes, it is a potato chip company. It is a global leader. So it's a big company, a snack food industry, and obviously whatever information it might need. For the most part, for this particular assistant, it should have all this information from its knowledge being trained on this data anyways, coming from ChatGPT, of course. And then for what we actually do, so in this case, what the business does and being more specific towards the products, copied something from ChatGPT that just says Lay's specializes in producing a diverse range of potato chips, etc., various flavors, styles, and whatever. It's just basic information. Obviously, when you're building this for a real company, you want to put in as much information as you can to give it the most amount of context, especially if you want it to be answering questions about this particular information. You can do so by just putting in more information, of course. So now for the notes at the end here, I'm not going to put anything in the notes right away. The notes is really for adding additional aspects to it once we've started our testing. So when we start to test the system, we're going to find all of the prompt flaws by actually testing it. We're going to look at some of the areas where it's not responding how we want it to, or maybe it's saying things that it just really shouldn't be. And that's where we're going to have the notes, and we're going to start to put in some notes to fix those areas and edge case issues. So I might start off by giving that a quick test just to see if this actually does what we want it to and sounds how we like it to sound. And before giving it a quick test to see if it does what we want it to and gives us a good base to start building from, I'm just going to go ahead and add in a welcome message as well. So if we come all the way to the bottom here, we get 3 different ways that we can actually initiate the conversation. So we can either have the user initiate the conversation, so the AI won't say anything and then the user has to speak to initiate it, or we can have a dynamic beginning message where we can use some variables. Otherwise, we'll just begin with a defined begin message and we can just say, hello, welcome to Lay's Chips. How can I assist you today? So super basic, but that should do the job.
Hello, welcome to Lay's Chips Support. How can I assist you today?
Hey, I was just looking to see if I could get a refund on a bag of chips. I was having a look at it and there was actually quite a few chips missing.
I'm sorry to hear about your experience with our product. We want to make sure you have a great experience with Lay's. To assist you with a refund or replacement, could you please provide me with some details? Specifically, the flavor of the chips, the size of the bag, and any codes or dates printed on the packaging. This information will help us process your request more efficiently.
So there you go. It is obviously working. So that is great. And now this is where we're going to start to refine and really fix in the areas of the assistant that we want to. In that case, right away, you can see there was a very long response it just gave me. And it was obviously asking for quite a bit of information. We can now start to refine this and maybe ask for and detail exactly what information we are looking for. And these are just some of the aspects when testing these assistants and testing the conversational flow and the actual user experience and just understanding whether or not we need to add things in or remove things to make it a more seamless experience. So to get started in making that a little bit better, I'm just going to add in some instructions for the product complaint and feedback inquiries. So if somebody does have a complaint about the product, they want to provide some feedback about it, what should actually happen? So in this case, we might want to actually capture their name, we might want to capture their email, because we do want to contact them later, of course, and obviously solve their issue. So the first thing that I might type is just the first thing we need to capture is their first name. Then secondly, we need to collect the last name. So the second thing we need to capture is the last name. So at the moment, I'm just listing out a bunch of instructions that I want for anyone that comes through with a product complaint. I've said capture their first name, last name, email. I might actually just add in the detailed explanation of what their complaint or feedback is. So I might just say, please ask them for a detailed explanation for the complaints or feedback. And then I might just say next, we need to capture their first name. So once we've done some changes, we might just give it another ring and then just see if it has obviously listened to our changes and acts any differently.
Hello, welcome to Lay's Chip Support. How can I assist you today?
Hey, I was just looking to make a product complaint.
I'm sorry to hear that you have a complaint. Could you please provide me with a detailed explanation of the issue you're experiencing with our product?
Yeah, for sure. So I was looking in the bag and there was definitely about 50% of the chips missing.
Thank you for bringing this to our attention. I understand how disappointing it can be to find a bag with fewer chips than expected. Let's get this sorted out for you. Could I please have your first name?
John.
Thank you, John. Just to confirm, is that spelled John?
That is correct.
Great, thank you, John. Could I also have your last name, please?
Smith.
Thank you, John. Is that spelled Smith?
Yep, that's correct.
Thank you, John Smith. Lastly, could you please provide your email address so we can follow up with you regarding your complaint?
johnsmith@gmail.com.
Thank you, John. Just to confirm, is that JOHNSMITH@gmail.com?
That is completely correct.
Thank you for confirming, John. We appreciate you bringing this to our attention, and we'll make sure to address your complaint promptly. If there's anything else you need, feel free to let me know.
So there you go. That has obviously now got a pretty solid instruction set for capturing a name, capturing an email, and then moving on with that inquiry as well. So that's obviously done exactly what we wanted to. Now, I can't guarantee that that is going to work as smoothly as it just did every single time. We've really done no prompt engineering on this at the moment. Typically for any client builds, we'll put in a lot more guardrails for actually capturing those names and those emails, because we do want to make sure that is accurate 100% of the time, which is obviously very difficult to do. Obviously getting a 90+% accuracy rate on capturing these details would be ideal. And in this case, we've obviously just said capture their email. We haven't really given it any context to how to do that. Typically, we will actually write out to spell the characters, and you might say J-O-H-N, which you did just see it do automatically, but it won't always do that. And so you do need to make sure that it is prompted in there to do this properly. But for the case of this assistant, we're just looking at the actual structure of it. And I'm not going to do all of the different prompt engineering aspects that we would in obviously a typical build. But for this case, that worked pretty well. And I'll move on to the next part. So for the next thing, I'm going to build out the function. So the function is going to obviously take the first name, take the last name, and take the email, as well as that product complaint. And we're just going to store this in a Google Sheet. And this is really just for any team members to have a look at and monitor and analyze and look at all of the different things that are coming through with their products, and just have this data to analyze and use for business intelligence and whatever you could use it for. So the first step in doing this is really just writing out the prompt and telling the prompt to run a function. And we can do this by simply just saying once you've captured the first name, last name, and the email, we'll just add in the complaint/feedback, first name, last name, and the email. Please run the query function. So I've said once you've captured the complaint/feedback, first name, last name, and email, please run the inquiry function. So this inquiry function is something that we are now going to have to build and connect to Make.com and Google Sheets and build out this entire automation. And we can do this pretty simply. Let's go ahead and save our prompt, going up to the functions, and we're going to build out our function for a custom function. And this is going to connect directly with make.com. So jumping into make.com, this right here is really an automations platform, very similar to Zapier. If you've used Zapier before, if you haven't used either, you'll get a good understanding of how it works and what its purpose is. But in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and create a brand new scenario, which is just a project in make.com. Once I've gone ahead and created my new scenario, I'm going to go ahead and click on the webhooks. Webhooks is really a dynamic way to interact data between different applications. So we can actually send information through a webhook from retail to make. And it's just a super simple way to send data across different platforms really easily. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on add, creating a new webhook. And we're just going to call this the Lay's retail, hit save. We're going to go ahead and click copy address to clipboard, go over to retail on our custom function. And this is the URL. So URL is just where that data is going to be sent to. Really simply, you can just think of it like an email address. All we're doing is sending some content to this particular address and it's going to receive that data and we can do whatever we want with it. At the top of our function, we need to make this the same name as the function that we're requesting and calling in the prompt. So in this case, we're just saying inquiry, and we're going to say for the description, this function is ran when there is a new product complaint / feedback inquiry. This function runs when a new product complaint / feedback inquiry occurs. And then coming down to the parameters, this is what we're going to be using for capturing all of our bits of data, the first name, last name, email, as well as the actual request, the detailed complaint or feedback. In this case, we're just going to use one of their examples. So we can just go on example 1. And this is just the structure of a piece of data that we can send through one of these webhooks. So it might look a little complicated, although it's actually pretty simple. The first thing that we're going to do is just replace these properties, and we're going to create new properties as well. So in this case, it's using an appointment time in this case, but we're just going to remove this and we'll just type, we're going to type complaint, or maybe we'll type inquiry because it's the inquiry that we're capturing. And we're just going to give it a description. So we'll say this is the inquiry the caller is or has called about. So once we've done this, it's going to use AI to pull this information from the transcript of the conversation. So we don't need to refer to anything or any variables in that case. And what we're going to do is just copy this right here. So we're copying the inquiry and we're just pasting it again. So we're just going to have another inquiry. So we'll just add a bit of comma here. We'll just go ahead and click or copy this right here. And we're pretty much just going to paste. I've just gone ahead and actually used example 3 instead. This actually gives us 2 different parameters to use. I've changed it out for inquiry. So inquiry description, this is what the caller has inquired about. Below this, we're going to add in another property in our request. In this case, we're just going to want the first name. So in this case, we're going to type first name and we're going to replace all of this for this is the first name of the customer or the caller in this case. Then we want to copy this again. So we can literally just copy this like that, paste it in here. And now we've got another one. So we can just type last name. This is the last name of the caller. We can copy this once again right from there. Paste that again, type in email. This is the email of the caller. And now we're capturing all of those data points. So now we've got a total of 4 different data points, the email, last name, first name, and inquiry. And that is perfectly working. If you do mess up the structure of it, it will tell you if it's not properly done. So you will know if it should be working or not. In this required field, this is just for any values that are 100% required. In this case, I suppose that the inquiry is the most required field. So we'll just type inquiry here. At the very least, we do want to capture what they're inquiring about so we can store that data at the very least. So we'll type inquiry there and that is done. That should pretty much send all of this information from every caller that triggers the inquiry custom function and send that to our make.com request. So we can go ahead and test this by just hitting run once on our webhook request. That's going to let it load and it's going to be looking for any requests coming through. First thing that I'll do is just give it a ring and see if we can actually trigger it with the current setup.
Hello, welcome to Lay's Chip Support. How can I assist you today?
Hey, I was just looking to make a complaint about a bag of chips that I bought.
I'm sorry to hear that you had an issue with one of our products. Could you please provide me with more details about your complaint?
Yeah, so it was missing about 80% of the chips inside.
Thank you for sharing that with me. Let's get this sorted out for you. Could you please provide me with your first name?
It's John.
Thank you, John. Could you please spell your last name for me?
John.
Thank you, John. Could you please provide your email address so we can follow up with you regarding your complaint?
Yeah, it's john@gmail.com.
Thank you, John. Just to confirm, your email is john@gmail.com. I'll now proceed to submit your complaint. Please hold on for a moment. Thank you, John. Your complaint has been submitted successfully.
So there we go. That automation just ran through there. Now, obviously that conversation could definitely improved. It didn't actually ask for my last name and it didn't properly follow through with the spelling. It asked me to spell it out instead of itself spelling it out. So like I mentioned initially, there's obviously a bit of work that needs to go into fixing the prompt to be more accurate and consistent, which is something that can definitely be done very easily, but it just requires a bit of time and effort in actually building out the prompt to be better and better and not just writing it up once and then testing it and letting that go. So if we look at our webhook request right here, we're going to see that we did receive a request. Have a look at the arguments and we can see here, this is everything that it sort of found. And what we can see here is first name was John, last name John. So obviously because it sort of failed to ask for the last name and we didn't properly set up the conditions to capture it, it sort of failed and just said John. But that's once again, it's pretty simple to fix. It just requires more effort in fixing up the prompt there for capturing a last name. But for the most part, the request still did work, captured the email and the inquiry worked pretty well. So the bag of chips was missing about 80% of the chips inside. So that's perfect. What we're going to do now is connect this to Google Sheets to actually now store these inquiries. So to do this, I'm going to be using make.com, obviously, and connecting this to our webhook. I'm going to go ahead and click on add, click on Google Sheets, and this is going to give us a whole heap of options for sending data to a Google Sheet. And before I even do that, I'm just going to go ahead and create a brand new sheet on my Google Sheets account. So in this case, we're just going to need to click add a row, connect that to the system here, make sure that's connected to our email, connected to our Gmail account or Google account. Once that's done, Google Sheets is connected. Go back to our sheets here and just give it a name. So we're just going to call this the Lays AI Caller Complaints, or it's more inquiries in total. So just inquiries. There we go. So we've now got a sheet here that should be capturing all of that information. Come back to our Google Sheets request here. Search method. Don't need to use that at the moment. We're going to go down to my drive, spreadsheet ID, go to the spreadsheet ID and just select the Google Sheet that you just created. So in this case, you can just search by name. So Lays AI Caller Inquiries, exact same as the spreadsheet that I just created. Sheet name is just the sheet name at the bottom here. So sheet 1, select that. And now that is connected to our entire spreadsheet. We will probably want to add in some headings so we actually format the data properly. We can just add in a date if we want to obviously track when these calls were made, give it a heading and make it all look bit nicer. Add in the first name, add in the last name, add in the email, and we can also just add in the inquiry, of course. Once you've done that, you may need to refresh it so it actually updates with all of those values. Once you hit refresh though, it'll populate all of those values. So the first name is obviously going to be first name, last name is going to be last name. All of these fields that I'm just clicking on now have been automatically populated because we've ran this webhook. If you haven't done the webhook initially, you're obviously not going to see these fields. It's only populating because it's remembering it from the request that we've already done. We've now got these values. We'll just click in the email there as well and the inquiry there as well. And for date, make.com has a whole heap of functions for different types of values and live values. So in this case, we can actually get a date pretty easily. I'm just going to type in now and we're going to get the current time, or at least the time that is set once the automation runs this particular module. I'm also going to go ahead and actually format the date. So we can type in format date and we can throw in a bit of a format date function here. We can drag the now pretty much right into there. That just disappeared. So I'll just get that again and we can put that right there. And all this is doing is formatting it into a more legible and readable date. If you're just using the now function, it's just going to give us all of the different timestamp data that we don't necessarily want to read. In this case, we want to make it more legible and we can do that by typing year, and you can format this however you want, of course. But in this case, we're just typing in this, and this is just going to format the date, the year, the month, the day, the hours, minutes, etc. And it's going to be in the 12-hour date format, which is what the A is doing. But for the most part, not really important. That's just going to give us a nice date to organize the data. So we'll hit OK. And now we should have all of our data begin to populate into Google Sheets, and every call that comes through with a product complaint or feedback request should come through and throw itself into the Google Sheet. So I'll go ahead and click on run once. And now this is going to initiate our automation so we can go back to retail and we can pretty much just begin to go through the same process as before.
Hello, welcome to Lays Chip Support. How can I assist you today?
Hey, I'd like to submit a complaint about a bag of chips. It's missing about 99% of the chips in there.
I'm sorry to hear about your experience with our product. Could you please provide me with more details about the complaint?
Yeah, so it's missing like 99% of the chips.
Thank you for sharing that with me. Let's get this sorted out for you. Could you please provide me with your first name?
It is Jack.
Thank you, Jack. Could you please spell your last name for me?
Jack.
Thank you, Jack. Could you please provide your email address so we can follow up with you?
It is jack@gmail.com.
Thank you, Jack. Just to confirm, your email is jack@gmail.com. I'll now submit your Great. Your complaint has been submitted successfully.
So we can see there, it has gone ahead and thrown that bit of data straight into our Google Sheets through Make.com. Going back to Make.com, we can see that request was obviously fulfilled and it automatically sent through the data right away. I can just reformat this to make it look a bit cleaner. And then we have it, we've got the date with exactly when it was just done, the first name, last name, email, and the inquiry. Obviously, once again, that didn't actually run properly at all. It didn't capture our last name. It followed up with the spelling and then thought that that was the last name for whatever reason. And once again, another sort of point at that we need to just test this again and make it better at actually capturing that last name or capturing any different value. But for the most part, I guess it did capture the inquiry there, missing 99% of the chips. Got the email as well. Hopefully you can now see the way that we're actually structuring this to capture inquiries and manage all these inquiries. So as you could imagine, for a company it's receiving a lot of these calls and a lot of these complaints, we've now got a pretty simple way to track all of these different inquiries and just have a whole list of hundreds and hundreds of different inquiries here with all of the different types of problems and issues that are going on. And we can track all of that in this Google Sheets right here. Obviously we can use Airtable, a CRM system as well, populate all this data, but a Google Sheets pretty much just shows you the point of what I'm talking about. The next part that we can add to this automation is actually a Gmail step. So in this case, we're going to be sending out an email to the individual that is obviously called through. They've had the information recorded in our Google Sheet, and then we can pretty much just have that sent to them in an email to let them know that their inquiry has been submitted and that we're thanking them for their request. In this case, it is super easy to do in Make.com. All we're doing is just getting a Gmail module. We're adding that to the end of our Google Sheets module. This is just going to run right after the Google Sheets module, and we've just added in my Google account. I've just gone ahead and connected my Google account, added in the email from the webhook response at the start. Then we've added in just a random subject, Lay's product inquiry submitted. Thanks for your inquiry. Thanks for your request. And that's just the content of the email. Obviously, we can make this more advanced by adding in some HTML formatting, but hopefully shows you the point that we can send emails and do a whole bunch of stuff with Make.com and sending out additional automations. And I've already run a test request right now, and that is obviously gone ahead and sent that email and sent it off to myself, or sent it to the example email that ran through. So john@gmail.com, sent it through, and that works perfectly fine. So the next automation that we're going to build is actually the refund and replacement requests. So if somebody comes through and says that they want a refund or a replacement for their particular product for whatever reason, we're going to have a separate sort of task run in this case. What I'll first do is just grab a few of the same things from the initial task that was ran. So capturing the first name, last name, and the email. I'm just going to copy all of this and just put that in the refund or replacement inquiries as well. And the first thing that we want to capture is essentially the details. So we could probably capture first one up here as well and put that in here. Please ask them for a detailed explanation for the refund request or refund/replacement request. So we get some details about it, run through or capturing all of the data. And then at the end, we do want to obviously run a new function. And in this case, we're going to say, once you've captured the complaint feedback, first name, last name, email. So in this case, we want to say refund/request, first name, last name, email, or details, first name, last name, email. Please run the inquiry function. In this case, we're going to say, please run the refund function. So that just keeps it simple. Got that there. And what we do want to capture is going to be a unique identifier for the particular order. So in this case, we'll just make something up, but prove the point of being able to capture particular IDs, product IDs, barcodes, order IDs, etc. So second up, we might want to say, please ask them for their receipt code. Just a random identifier for a particular order. So please ask them for their receipt code, for example, or we could say, please ask for their receipt code and repeat it to them to confirm the spelling or confirm the code. So super simple, we're just throwing it in there. Please ask them for their receipt code and repeat it to confirm the code. And this might be just whatever random 1, 2, 3, 4 type of code. Capture that and just capture everything else. So the first thing that we're going to do to actually connect this to our automation is once again, create a function. We'll make sure to save that. So that's all good to go there. Create a custom function, back to Make.com, creating a brand new scenario, just the same as last time. And then what we're doing is going ahead and getting that webhook exactly the same as last time, creating a brand new webhook with a new name. In this case, we might just type refund, hit save. It's going to generate a new address. We'll copy that and put it in the URL section. Like we did last time, our name is now going to be refund. And we might just say, this is triggered when someone has provided their details and requested a refund/replacement. This function will provide details about their order So in this case, we're going to be searching up a Google Sheet. So we're actually going to have a sort of Google Sheet that represents a list of orders. And we're going to be looking at this sheet and we're going to be pulling back some data related to their order. So we can actually figure out maybe which store they purchased it from, at what time, to really confirm their purchase and confirm that they did in fact actually make this purchase and are entitled for a refund or replacement. So in this case, we're saying that the function will provide details about their order. And now it's the same process as last time. So we can go ahead and click example 3. Create a couple of properties here, and we just want to capture the same as last time. So we want to get essentially the detailed explanations. We might just call this details. This is the details relating to their request. Next one, we will do receipt code. This is their exact receipt code they provided. And then we're going to, once again, going to start to copy these. So we just want to grab another one. We'll add a bit of a comma there, copy another one, and just paste that right there. And then we'll just copy this once again. So just selecting all the way up until here, and then just pasting that once again. So we've got the receipt code. Now we just want the first name. This is the first name of the caller. Copy that once again. So we can just paste again. Last name. This is the last name of the caller. Paste again. Email. This is the email of the caller. Paste again, and then we're done. So we've got 4, I believe, or 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we've got 5 different types of information we're capturing. We're capturing the details about the request, the exact receipt code, first name, last name, email, and we might just set the receipt code as the most important part that is required in this particular running, but for the most part, that's not necessary. And that is done. So we're gonna hit save, and that should work for sending information to our webhook on Make.com. We can hit run once, and we can essentially just test this out. So give it a call.
Hello, welcome to Lay's Chips Support. How can I assist you today?
Hey, I was looking to just get a refund on a particular product. It wasn't what I was expecting.
I'm sorry to hear that the product didn't meet your expectations. Could you please provide me with a detailed explanation of the issue and the reason for your refund request?
Yeah, it just wasn't the flavor I was expecting, and yeah, I believe it was the wrong flavor, so I just want a refund completely.
Thank you for sharing that. Could you please provide me with the receipt code for your purchase? I'll need it to process your refund request.
Yeah, it was 1234.
Thank you for providing the receipt code, 1234. Next, could you please provide your first name? I'll need it to proceed with the refund
Brandon.
request. Thank you, Brandon. Could you please confirm the spelling of your last name?
Yeah, so it's actually Brendan.
Thank you for confirming, Brendan. Could you please provide your last name and confirm the spelling for me?
Smith, Smith.
Thank you, Brendan Smith. Lastly, could you please provide your email address and confirm the spelling?
Brendan@gmail.com.
Thank you for providing your email, brendan@gmail.com. I will now process your refund request. Please hold on for a moment. Your refund request has been successfully processed.
So there we go, just like last time and the last function, we've ran through with those details that we provided, and we can click on the arguments and we'll see that the details, the product was not the expected flavor and it was the wrong flavor. Receipt code 1234, Brendan Smith, brendan@gmail.com. So that has worked perfectly, got all of the values that we're looking for, and now we're going to use this to populate our automation. So I'll start off by creating a brand new spreadsheet. So in this case, this is going to be our Lay's order database. And in this case, we're going to be searching a list of orders. So I might just create order ID field. We'll give it the customer and we'll give it the store name. And in this case, we'll give it some more formatting and we're going to create a bunch of fake orders. So really all I need to do is just create the one order that we're looking for. 1234, customer in this case might be Brendan Smith, and the store name could be Sunshine Chips. So that is the particular store that sold the chips to the customer, and we're going to retrieve that for the customer to get verification that is exactly where they bought it from. So in this case, we've got that there. We're going to go ahead and add in the spreadsheet module to our webhook, and we're going to be searching rows this time. So we're not adding anything in, we're just going to be searching particular rows. So I've gone through and added in that spreadsheet. So Lay's order database that I just created, gone through sheet 1, and then I've come down to filter. In filter, it will automatically populate all of the columns into the filter section. So we've got the order ID, customer, and store name, everything that we stored in our spreadsheet. And I've just said in the text operators equal to, and this is the receipt code. So it should be just looking at, is there a particular order ID that matches our receipt code? And if so, we're going to capture all of the data within that row. And we can do that just by selecting that, and that's it. So we're going to hit OK. I might just need to click OK again to get rid of the red number there, hit OK, there we go, and we'll give it a try. So essentially we'll hit run once. So I'll just give that a quick test.
Hello, welcome to Lay's Chip Support. How can I assist you today?
Hi, I'd like to get a refund.
I'm here to help you with your refund request. Could you please provide me with a detailed explanation of why you are requesting a refund?
Yeah, there was no chips inside of the bag.
I'm sorry to hear about that issue. Could you please provide me with the receipt code for your purchase? I'll need it to process your refund request.
1234.
Thank you for providing the receipt code, 1234. Could you please provide your first name? I'll need it to proceed with the refund
Brendan.
request. Thank you, Brendan. Could you please confirm the spelling of your last name?
Smith.
Thank you, Brendan Smith. Could you please provide your email address so we can complete the refund process?
Brendan@gmail.com.
Thank you, Brendan. Your refund request has been successfully processed.
And there we go. We've gone ahead and had that webhook request sent through. That's gone through the custom webhook module, gone through and searched the rows with that particular order ID. And you can see here in the output, we've got the exact row that we're looking for. So it's found the customer, found the store name. And what we need to do is just retrieve this back into the conversation and repeat this back to the customer. So we can do this using a webhook response module, hit the webhook response. And essentially this is going to send information back into retail. And we can very simply just do two quotations right there. And we can just put in any bit of data that we need. So in this case, we can go to the Google Sheets and we can just send through this bits of data. So all we really want is the store name. That's what we've captured. I might just add in here. This is the name of the store. The order was placed, and this will just send it back to the caller. And all this is doing is just confirming with the particular individual that the order was placed or found in the system. If it's found in the system, it's essentially verified and we can process that refund for them. So we'll go ahead and test that as well. And before I test that, I will just add into the prompt to actually confirm that information as it comes through. So once the function is ran, it may or may not provide the store name. If the store name is provided, then the order is confirmed, and please tell the customer they will receive a refund. If no store name is provided, tell them we cannot verify their order. So in this case, we're using the store name as the sort of sole piece of data to verify if it was or was not verified. And in this case, get that store name, repeats it back to them, verify the order, process the refund, done. Obviously, in this case, this is just demonstrating the purpose and the function of actually doing it. And obviously doing a proper refund would require much more extensive APIs with the proper CRM systems and connecting into those platforms. But in this case, get the idea, it's all possible just by running these requests. So we'll hit the save button and give it another test call.
Hello, welcome to Lay's Chip Support. How can I assist you today?
Hey, I'd like to get a refund.
I'm here to help with your refund request. Could you please provide me with a detailed explanation of why you are requesting a refund?
Yes, so there's no chips at all in my bag of chips.
I'm sorry to hear about the issue with your bag of chips. Could you please provide me with the receipt code for your purchase? I'll need it to process your refund request.
1234.
Thank you for providing the receipt code, 1234. Next, could you please provide your first name?
It is Brendan.
Thank you, Brendan. Could you please confirm the spelling of your last name?
Jowett.
Thank you, Brendan Gialet. Could you please provide your email address so we can complete the refund process?
Brendan@gmail.com.
Thank you, Brendan. Your refund has been confirmed and you will receive it from the store Sunshine Chips. If you have any more questions or need further assistance, feel free to ask.
So you can see there that followed through. It was able to ask me that I was going to receive a refund request based on the order ID being found. It obviously mentioned the particular store in which that order was obviously made as well. So that went through perfectly fine. And in that case, I would receive a refund. Obviously, there's no particular automation to process that refund, but you can see how we can also easily do that through this exact same process. In terms of not receiving a refund, the automation would just see no data available in the spreadsheet, and then the prompt would come back and let them know that they were not able to verify that order. And now lastly, for the last task and function of this particular voice assistant, we're going to do the urgent product issues and complaints. So in this case, all I want it to do is do a warm live transfer, and the warm live transfer is essentially just going to transfer the call to maybe my phone number, and it will just read out what the particular caller is inquiring about. So if they've got a really urgent issue, maybe the product is causing some sort of harm in some way, and it's forwarded that call to me, it will let me know using the AI. So you'll see in a second what I'm talking about. But in this case, all we're going to do is say, please transfer the call by running the transfer call function. So we'll set that up and connect that directly to our urgent product issues and complaints section here. So follow these instructions. If someone inquires about an urgent product issue, please transfer the call by running the transfer call function. And Retail already has a function ready to go for this. So we click add. We can actually do call transfer just by clicking this. And once we do this, we're going to get this pop up right here. So we've got this interface for building out the transfer call function automatically for us. Transfer call is the name. That's perfect. Description. We might change this a little bit. So when the user has an urgent product issue / complaint, run this function. We're going to be transferring the number. In this case, we're not going to use the default number. We're just going to put in my own phone number. And then what we're doing is we're doing a warm transfer. So in this case, we can do a cold transfer as well. And that will essentially just send the call off to the particular number you inputted, and it won't provide any sort of details as to where this call is coming from. But we can do a warm transfer, which is going to come with a prompt that we can use to structure that following message. So this is a really rough prompt that I've just thrown in here. You are speaking with the manager who is about to receive a transferred call. You must summarize the reason for the call and why this call transfer was required for the manager listening to you. So that should do a good enough job at summarizing the particular inquiry and then repeating that back to me when I pick up that transfer call. So we'll hit save and then we'll give it another call. So once it's set up, I can just demonstrate that function being called once it's requested to be called. And I'm actually just going to use the chat function for testing. And so we don't actually have to call the assistant every time that we want to do this. So we can just say, hello, I would like to speak with someone. It is urgent. And then we can just do this all through here. And look at that right away. I'll transfer your call to a live representative who can assist you with your urgent issue. And then that transfer call was initiated right away. So we were able to get that transfer call going. And then if we just check our phone, we can receive a call essentially just directly from that. So I'll transfer a call to a live representative, blah, blah, blah. It's already sent off. And that's how that works. If you're looking at integrating AI voice callers into your business, feel free to schedule a call with me below, and we can discuss everything about these voice agents and integrating them into your business.